And then we spoke about hukmul adi, and now we are at hukmul aqli. So the translation for hukmul al-hukmul aqli is rational laws, whereas hukmul adi is empirical laws. So the main difference between the empirical laws and the rational laws is that empirical laws is based on experimentation, observation, and repetition. Experimentation, observation, and repetition. So we will find many of the sciences like chemistry and physics, many of these are built upon the foundation of observation and experimentation. So this is within the empirical laws. But when it comes into the rational laws, we are not dependent on experimentation, we are not dependent on observation, we are not any dependent on repetition. We do not we do not affirm something because it occurs many times. Within the rational laws, we do not consider this. We do not consider this thing. But when it comes to empirical laws, when I gave many examples, we gave the examples of fire burning. We gave the examples of consuming food and the effect of being full, and not consuming food. The effect is hunger. So these are the four aspects where the author mentioned when it comes to the empirical laws, how we connect the cause and the effect. So whenever we have the cause, then the effect comes. When we are thirsty, we consume drink. We consume drinks, then we are quenched. The effect of this consumption is that we get quenching. How do we have this affirmation and this belief? It is based on repetition, because many a times we consume food, many a times we eat and drink every day, and every time we consume food, every time we drink, we experience that we are full and we can quench our thirst. So this becomes a norm. This becomes a norm. So this is what we meant by the empirical laws. It is dependent on repetition and experimentation and observation. Likewise, when it comes to observation, we observe that fire burns. That whenever you put paper in fire, the paper burns. So we come to the conclusion that fire burns. So this conclusion is based on empirical laws. It is based on empirical laws. So, but when it comes to the rational laws are not dependent on repetition. So, simple an example will be mathematics. Mathematics is an example equals to 4. 3 plus 3 equals to 6. Is it based on repetition or it is based on experimentation? No, it is not. It is something that is established rationally. It's something that cannot change. Something that cannot change. 2 plus 2 is always equals to 4. 1 plus 1 is always equals to 2. It is impossible at any point of time that these laws can change. So the difference between empirical laws and rational laws is that empirical laws can change. Empirical laws can change. Your observation, when you base something on observation, it might change. It might change. When it comes for example to the consuming of food, there are people who consume food but they cannot be full. There are at times fire does not burn, and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the rational laws, these are laws that cannot change. These are laws that cannot change. So a good example will be mathematics. Although the author gave some other examples when it comes to this. So he said wa amma hukmul aqli. Now when we go back to our notes, he said wa amma hukmul aqli, as for the rational laws, wa huwa isbatu amrin aw nafyuhu. It is the affirming of something, or it's non-affirming, min ghairi tawaqqufin ala takarrur, which is not dependent on repetition. Which is not dependent on repetition. Wala wad'i wadi'in, and it is not dependent on someone else to put forth. such a foundation. So these are something that are established. What the author is saying, and these are something that are established, and its establishment is not dependent on repetition or experimentation. So he gave the categories. He said, "Wa aqsamuhu salasa." There are three types. Number one is al-wujub, number two is al-istihala, and number three is al-jawaz. So we have the necessary, the impossible, and the possible. This is what we learned in Kharida last time. The author in Kharida, he began what you call it, the Aqidah, by speaking about the rational laws. And if you look at the what you call it, the what we have studied. So before we enter into speaking about the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we speak about the definition. What is the meaning of wajib aqli? What is the meaning of mustahil aqli? What is the meaning of jawaz aqli? So this basically the thing that we are in now. The only thing is that this particular book gives more definition to that. So it is an in-depth understanding of the concept of rational laws and empirical laws and so on. So he gave all these definitions, and these are the definitions that are important. Hopefully we can understand it well and we can memorize it. So he said, فَالْوَاجِبُ مَا لَا يُتَصَوَّرُ فِي الْعَقْلِ عَدَمُهُ. He said, al-wajib, wajib here, wajib aqli, the necessary, what you call it, the necessary, when it comes into the rational laws. What is the meaning? He said, مَا لَا يُتَصَوَّرُ فِي الْعَقْلِ عَدَمُهُ. What the mind cannot conceive its non-existence. The mind cannot conceive its non-existence, meaning you cannot imagine and you cannot accept its non-existence. You cannot accept its non-existence. So he gave the example of katahayyuzi lil jirmi, like the example of having a substance, taking any space for substances. The taking up of space for substances. What does it mean? Now, when we say there is a matter or there is a substance, a matter or substance, it must take up space. Can you imagine a matter that does not take up space? This is impossible. This is impossible. What is the meaning of matter? In science, we study, correct? We study what is a substance, what is a matter. A matter is what you call it, part of a substance. So whenever you have a substance, or you have a matter, or even an atom or molecule, all these things, they take up space because they are mass. Correct or not? All masses, this is what we study in physics. All masses all masses take up space. Can you imagine a mass that does not take up space? So this is impossible. So it is necessary, wajib aqli, that every matter take up space. So this is the example that the author gave, the first example. And he said, imma daruratan. This is an example where, what you call it, it doesn't really need ponderance. Darura here meaning it does not in need of ponderance. Meaning, when you think about this reality, you are not in need of pondering it, because it is simple knowledge. Whenever you see substances around you, whenever you see things around you, automatically your mind understood that it take up space. So this is the first example the author mentioned, katahayyuzi lil jirmi masalan. So this is an example of darura, wajib aqli daruratan. So maybe in your notes you can write wajib aqli, or the necessary. It is divided into two parts. One is darura, which we can translate as simple knowledge. The other one is nadari. Nadari is coming. Nadari basically it means that you are in need to ponder. Usually people need to ponder. So we say this is nadari. Just like we say, for example, 2 plus 2 equals to 4. This is daruri. Easy, correct or not? There is no need for you to ponder. But when it comes to, for example, 4 times 8 times 12, now this is nadari. You need to sit down and to reflect and to think. What is the answer? So this is the difference between daruri or darura and nadari. So one is simple knowledge, and the other one is, I think in English, and we use it, and the cognitive, something that you need any of confidence. So the second example and he gave wa imma nadaran ka wujubil qidami li maulana jalla wa azza. Ka wujubil qidam. Yani the example he gave and he is the necessary attribute of pre-eternality for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we say, for example, Allah does not have a beginning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yani cannot have a beginning necessarily. He cannot have a beginning. So if you speak to a person who is a non-Muslim, who is an atheist, and for example, he might take some time to digest this. This is nadari, this requires ponderance. So he might ask you the question, why not? Why can God have a beginning? So then we answer, if God has a beginning, it will lead to infinite regression. And infinite regression is impossible. So what is any infinite regression? Again, the example that if God has a beginning, then there is something else that brought God into existence. And that something else has a beginning, then we are in need of something else to create that something else. So this cannot be ending. So this is the meaning of infinite regression, and infinite regression rationally it is impossible. Even any non-Muslims they understood the impossibility of infinite regression, because at the end of the day you cannot get anywhere. There is no point of beginning, and that is impossible. And then he mentioned wal mustahilu ma la yutasawwaru fil aqli wujuduhu. So when it comes to the impossible, it is the opposite. Ma la yutasawwaru fil aqli wujuduhu. What the mind cannot conceive is existence. The mind cannot conceive its existence. Imma daruratan, again, it is divided into two parts. Darura and daruri and nadari. So when it comes to daruri, he said, Kata'ari jirmi anil harakati was sukun. So the example of a substance that does not have movement and non-movement. This is impossible. Correct, not? This is mustahil aqli. The mind cannot accept its non-existence. The mind cannot accept its existence. How can a substance does not have movement and non-movement? Can you think of something that does not have movement or non-movement? It is impossible. Because matter and substances, either they are moving or they are not moving. But they cannot be non-moving and not moving, and they cannot be both in non-existence. So we say either they are moving or not moving. But if you say that they are not moving, likewise they are non-movement. So this is impossible. This is impossible. So there must be either one. But if you negate both of them, movement and non-movement, they do not have movement nor they have non-movement. This is impossible. And this is impossible based on simple knowledge. This is daruri. So this is what the author is saying. وَكَتَعَارِ الْجِرْمِ عَنِ الْحَرَكَةِ وَالسُّكُونِ. And then the second part is nadari. Nadari, and he gave the example كَالشَّرِيكِ لِمَوْلَانَا جَلَّ وَعَزَّا. The example of a sharik. Sharik is a partner to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is impossible. God cannot have partners. God cannot have partners. It is impossible. So this is nadari. Why? Because it requires ponderance. As when we speak to people who does not believe, we say it is impossible that God have partners. When people ask why, then we speak about burhanu tamano, which we learn in the Farida Bahiyya last time, as what Allah mentioned in the Quran, لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهِ لَفَسَدَتَا. If there are other gods other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the heaven and earth it will perish. So this is burhanu tamano. So this is under nadari, mustahil aqli. And then we have the third one, that is the jaiz. Wal jaizu ma yasihu fil aqli wujuduhu wa adamu. When comes into the jaiz, when comes into the jaiz, and he said what the mind can accept its existence and non-existence. So again, it is divided into two parts, and we have the daruri and nadari. So the daruri, he gives kal harakati lana, like our movement. Our movement yani is jais. Our movement yani is jais. So we human beings, what do you call it? We move at times, and we move at times, and we do not move. So our movement yani is possible. Wa imma nadaran, and when it comes to nadari, he says kata'adhibil muti' wa ithabatil 'asi. So when it comes to jaiz aqli, he gave the example of the punishment of the one who is obedient to Allah, and giving rewards to the one who is disobedient. What is the meaning? The meaning is this. This is the thing in Aqidah Ahlus Sunnah. We say that if a person obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all his life, is it possible that Allah make him enter the hellfire? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. And because at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who decides who enters the hellfire and who enters the paradise. So that it is possible that Allah make a person who obeys him to enter the hellfire, and it is also possible for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make a person who disobeys him to enter the heaven. So this is within the possibilities. So we say that nothing can force Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the difference again between us and the Mu'tazila, because the Mu'tazila, they say it is impossible that Allah make a person who is obedient to enter the hellfire, and make the person who is disobedient to enter heaven. They say it is impossible. It is compulsory upon Allah to make him enter hellfire. It is compulsory upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make him enter heaven. This is the viewpoint of who? The Mu'tazila. So they are saying that something can be compulsion upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ahlus Sunnah say this is impossible. Why? Because if Allah is forced, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is forced, meaning he is dependent upon the thing that forces him. Clear inshallah? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-ilahul mukhtar, that he does things based on his choice. Nothing can force Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the difference between us and the Mu'tazila. So we say it is possible that Allah make a person who obeys him enter the hellfire. It is also possible that Allah makes a person who disobeys him to enter the heaven. So this is basically the explanations of what you call it, the ahkamul aql. And then he goes on to speak about the actions of human beings, the action of human beings. But before that, I hope everything clear, inshallah. Is there any problems in understanding this? Just to check, everything clear, inshallah. Is there any questions so far? If not, I will go on. What the author is saying, wal madahibu fil af'ali thalatha. The schools of thought when it comes to the actions of human beings are three. Number one, he say madhabul jabriya. This is a sect within the Islamic sect that is called as Jabriya. And then we have Qadariyya, and then we have Ahlus Sunnah. So he says, فَمَذْهَبُ الْجَبْرِيَّةِ وُجُودُ الْأَفْعَالِ كُلِّهَا بِالْقُدْرَةِ الْأَزَلِيَّةِ فَقَطْ. So this Jabriya, they are saying that the actions of human beings are based on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. Are based on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is linked to the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only. Min ghairi muqaranatin li qudratin haditha. Without the what you call it, the power that is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is attached to the divine power. Clear inshallah? Do you remember last time when we covered this? Huh? No, this is not deposited power. This is Jabriya. They believe that human beings got no choice. Basically what they are saying, human beings got no choice. Everything is false. Meaning, If a person prays, if a person perform prayers, he is forced to pray. He got no choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created his actions and in prayer, and there is no choice. Likewise, when he commits any ma'siyah, when he commits any acts, any of disobedience, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created any his actions, any of disobedience, and he got no choice. So this is the opinion of the Jabriya. They call themselves, and they are called as the Jabriya. Right, what is the viewpoint of the Ahlul Sunnah? Maybe I explain the viewpoint of the Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah in this issue of power of our actions. So Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they are saying our actions are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the first point is like the same as Jabriya. Our actions are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it doesn't mean that our actions are created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we are forced. We also have a choice. Tamam? We have a choice. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when we make any choices and to do a particular action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this ability within us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this ability within us to initiate that action. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this ability within us and to initiate that action, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that action. So our action that is what you call it that is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is related to that ability that Allah created in us. So this attachment between the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and that ability, this is the meaning of the action of human beings, that is called kasb. So this is basically what Dr. is saying, min ghayri muqaranatin li qudratin haditha. So if you look here, it says qudratin haditha. Qudratin haditha. So now there are two things. Number one, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in us ability at the point of action. Allah created in us this ability for us to initiate that action. This is the meaning of qudratul haditha. At the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created our action. So our initiation of action from that ability that Allah created in us at the point of our action, and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the relation, this is the meaning of kasb. So when does this happen? This happens when we intend to perform a particular action. Is it clear, inshallah? Everything clear? I think this time I explained in more detail than last time. Last time I just mentioned, for example, our actions are creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Correct, no? You say our actions are creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But here, what you call it, there is something else that we also have to understand, because here the author speaks about the connection between the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the power that is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The power that is created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let me give you an example. The thing is this. Now you intend to pray. Tamam? You intend to perform prayers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created in you the ability. So this ability is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The ability for you to perform prayers. Tamam? The ability of you to perform any prayers. So when at the point you're performing any prayers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created your action. So it is not that ability that created your action, but it is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created your action at the point of performing that particular action. So there is this connection between the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the created power in any person. So this might be like you know, you need some time to digest. This is like knowledge that is nadari, just like knowledge is nadari. What is the question? Let me see again. You see now because I'm using my phone. Just now I saw the okay, hold on. Messages. So the question is asking, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is constantly creating. Yes, Allah is constantly creating, which makes the understanding of Jabriyah wrong. Because they limit Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see, the problem of the Jabriyah, is that they believe that human beings do not have a choice. Everything is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so human beings are not accountable. Human beings are not accountable in a sense because human beings does not have a choice. So this is their mistake. So the correct understanding is the understanding of Ahlus Sunnah is that we say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything, but Allah gave us the ability to make choices. So when human beings wants to perform a particular action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the actions upon performance of that particular action. This is a simple way of explaining. So our creations, our intentions, creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, everything is a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, no exception. We cannot create anything. But the thing is this, Allah knows what are our intentions. So it doesn't mean that Allah created your intention, it doesn't mean that you are forced. Meaning Allah knows your intention before He created you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows your intention before He created you. So after He brought you into existence, then He gave you the ability to perform the intentions that you have made. Tamam? So again, going back to what I mentioned earlier, there are two things for us to take note. When it comes to the actions of human beings, number one, we have the created power. Now this one you have to pay attention. Number one, you have the created power. Number two, you have the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The connection between the created power and the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or we say the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this connection is called kasab. Kasab is basically the action of human being. So we say our actions is kasab. What is the meaning of kasab? Kasab speaks about this connection. The connection of the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the created power. What is the created power? As what I mentioned earlier, that Allah created ability within you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created this ability that you are able what you call it, to move for example. But it is not that power that makes you move. That power is asbab. It's just a reason. But the reality is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created your movement. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created your movement. So we say that human beings are given the choice. And the actions are a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So our actions is a mirror of our intentions. And we are accountable for our intentions. We are accountable for our choices. Tamam? So I hope it is clear inshallah ta'ala. So the difference between Ahlus Sunnah and Jabriyah is that Jabriyah, they believe that human beings does not have a choice. But Ahlus Sunnah says that human beings have a choice. That human beings are not forced. That human beings are accountable for the things that they have done. But at the same time, the actions of human beings are creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is basically what we are saying. So I hope it is clear inshallah. When comes we will just read the second one, and if you have any other 5 minutes, unless you have questions you can ask. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, okay? Tell me 5 minutes. Umi wants to go to the car, tell me to go. Okay? Okay, now we go on to the second one. And he say, وَمَذْهَبُ الْقَدَرِيَّةِ وَمَذْهَبُ الْقَدَرِيَّةِ وُجُودُ الْأَفْعَالِ الْإِخْتِيَارِيَّةِ بِالْقُدْرَةِ الْحَادِثَةِ فَقَطْ مُبَاشَرَةً أَوْ تَوَلُّدًا. طيب, this is the viewpoint of the Mu'tazila. Likewise, the Qadariyah. The Qadariyah, they believe that human beings have the ability to create their own actions by stored power. By stored any power. Clear, inshallah. So now, you see the Jabriya is saying that there is no stored power. There is only what you call the creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for our actions. But the Qadariyah, they say that human beings can create their own actions. So this is the opposite of Jabriya. Jabriya says that everything is a creation of Allah. Every action is a creation of Allah, that human beings have no choices. The Qadariyah says that human beings have choice, and human beings can initiate their own actions. How can human beings initiate their own actions? By the power that is stored in them. This is where the point when we say, for example, the Mu'tazila, they believe in deposited power. That when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human beings, Allah stored power in human beings. And that by that power, human beings can function. Human beings can move, and so on and so forth. So the Qadariyah, they believe that human beings can initiate their own actions just by the stored power. Basically, this is what they're saying. So clear, inshallah. So I think there is no problem. I just finish off to speak about Ahl Sunnah. You say, وَمَذْهَبُ أَهْلِ السُّنَّةِ وُجُودُ الْأَفْعَالِ كُلِّهَا بالقدرة الأزلية فقط مع مقارنة الأفعال الاختيارية لقدرة حادثة لا تأثير لها لا مباشرة ولا تولدا. طيب, this is basically what I explained earlier. So if you look, the definition of the Ahl Sunnah is quite long. Okay, so he said that the actions of human beings, وجود الأفعال كلها, all actions of human beings, بالقدرة الأزلية فقط. What is the meaning Qudra Azaliyah? This is the power of Allah. So he said that all of our actions are the effects of the power of Allah. Full stop. All of our actions is the effects of the power of Allah. Right. This is point number one. Point number two, he said, مع مقارنة الأفعال الاختيارية لقدرة الحادثة. This is the thing that I mentioned, that Allah created in us this ability. When we want to perform a particular action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He created in us this ability for us to perform the action. But it is not this ability that gives the effect of that action. Again, it is power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But this ability that Allah created in us is just a means. So there is muqarana. Allah did not create this ability and stored in us, that like the Mu'tazila is saying, but this ability comes at the point of we performing that particular action. So Allah created in us this ability that we are able to move, that we are able to walk, that we are able to pray. So when we want to perform a particular action, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created that action, and it is related to this ability that Allah created in us. But what is the thing that gives effect to the action? Is it this ability that Allah created in us to perform that action, or the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So this is where the author is saying, مع مقارنة الأفعال الاختيارية لقدرة حادثة لا تأثير لها. So there is what you call it, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this ability that Allah created in us at the point of us performing a particular action. And it is the power of Allah that gives the effect. So some of you and me might be asking, and then what is the reason why Allah created in us this ability? We say it is an asbab. Just like when Allah created in you food, when you consume food, it is an asbab. The food is a means. Likewise, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this ability that He created in us as the means that we are performing that particular action. But it is not that power that Allah created in us that performs that action. It is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which Allah created and in us that particular action. So I hope it is clear, inshallah. Is there any other questions? Is it clear? Inshallah, I just want to ask any, is it clear? Is my explanation okay? MashaAllah. So inshallah, we have to stop here because of time. Inshallah, next week, maybe I will just do a revision. Please remind me, next week, we just do a revision again about this. And inshallah, what do you call it? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with tawfiq and hidayah. So there is one more thing coming up. Al-Qasab. Just so I mentioned Qasab. So this is the explanation of Qasab coming up. So again, next lesson, we will go into this again. No issue. But please remind me, please remind me. Sometimes I forget. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Can you write your attendance?